CEO hated his intern for her last name, until he confronts her mother and learns the shocking truth. The office was quiet except for the hum of computers and the occasional ring of phones. The CEO, Daniel Walker, stood at the glass wall of his corner office, sipping black coffee. His sharp eyes scanned the new intern list on his desk. He paused. His jaw tightened. His hand gripped the paper, so hard it crumpled. There it was. A name he thought he'd never see again. Sick fag, he muttered under his breath, his voice low but filled with venom. A knock came on the door. "Come in," Daniel said coldly without looking up. The door creaked open and a young woman stepped inside. She couldn't have been more than 20. Her nervous smile lit up her whole face, and her voice trembled as she introduced herself. Hi, Mr. Walker. I'm Emily Sickfag. I just started as an intern today." Daniel's eyes snapped up. For a split second, his chest burned with something that felt like fire and ice mixed together. He saw her surname on the badge clipped to her blouse. "Of course," he said flatly. "Have a seat." Emily fumbled with her notebook and sat across from him. She was clearly eager to impress, but Daniel wasn't listening. His mind was somewhere else, 2 decades back, in a small park where the love of his life, Claire Sickfag, once kissed him goodbye without explaining why her eyes were full of tears. He remembered her whisper, "You have such a bright future, Danny, don't ever look back for me." But she was gone the next day. No note, no call. Her family moved overseas. He had been ready to throw away everything, his college acceptance letters, his scholarship, just to follow her. But she vanished. And now, here was this girl, this intern, with her last name. Daniel's voice turned sharp, colder than he intended. "So, Emily," he said, "why this company? Why here?" Emily straightened, her voice shaking but firm. "Because I want to learn. My mom always told me hard work pays off. She raised me to believe that no matter how hard life gets, you don't give up." Daniel blinked. Her mom. Something inside him twisted painfully. "Your mother?" he asked, almost against his will. "What's her name?" Emily smiled softly. "Claire." The pen slipped from Daniel's hand and clattered onto the desk. His throat went dry. For the first time in years, his mask of control cracked. Inside, his heart screamed, "Claire, my Claire." But all he said, in a voice hoarse and uneven, was, "You may go now." Emily nodded politely, stood up, and left the office. She didn't notice the way Daniel's eyes followed her, heavy with a storm of grief, anger, and something else he couldn't name. When the door closed, Daniel leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. His chest heaved as a single thought consumed him. Could she really be? The next morning, Emily walked into the office carrying a tray of coffee cups. Her sneakers squeaked lightly against the polished floor as she pushed open Daniel's door with her shoulder. "Good morning, Mr. Walker," she said, forcing a cheerful tone. Daniel barely looked up for his laptop. "You're late." Emily's smile faltered. She glanced at her watch. "It's 8:57. I thought we start at 9. "I expect my team to be early," Daniel cut in sharply. His voice was ice. "Being on time is already too late." Emily's cheeks burned. She placed the coffees on his desk carefully, but her hands trembled just enough that one cup tipped over, spilling a dark stream across a stack of files. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," she gasped, grabbing tissues from her bag. Daniel stood abruptly, his chair scraping back against the floor. "Stop. Just stop." His glare was so intense, Emily froze mid-motion. "You can't even carry coffee without ruining something," he said, each word deliberate and heavy. Emily's throat tightened. She blinked quickly, fighting the sting in her eyes. I'll do better, sir." Daniel turned away, his fists clenched at his sides. He wanted to stop, to swallow back the venom, but every time he looked at her name tag, every time he saw Claire's smile on that young face, the wound in his chest ripped open again. "Don't make promises you can't keep," he muttered coldly. Emily left the room, holding back tears until she reached the hallway. The other interns glanced at her curiously, but she forced a smile, pretending nothing was wrong. She whispered to herself, "It's just stress. He's just tough. I can handle this." But Daniel wasn't finished. Over the next week, he piled impossible tasks on her desk, reports due in half the time, errands no one else wanted. Every mistake, no matter how small, he magnified. One afternoon, when Emily stayed late to finish a project, Daniel appeared behind her. His voice sliced through the quiet office. "Why are you still here?" Emily startled. I wanted to finish this presentation before tomorrow's meeting. You think I'll be impressed?" His tone was sharp, almost cruel. "Work smarter, not harder. Staying late doesn't make up for incompetence." Emily bit her lip, her knuckles white as she gripped the mouse. She didn't answer. Daniel stared at her for a long moment, something breaking inside him as he saw the hurt in her eyes. For a flicker of a second, he saw Claire sitting there instead of Emily, the same determined jawline, the same fire in her eyes when she refused to give up. He turned away quickly, his voice low and strained. "Go home." Emily watched his back as he walked into the darkness of his office. Her chest ached, but she whispered under her breath, "Why does he hate me so much?" Daniel closed the door behind him, pressing his palms to his desk. His reflection in the dark glass stared back, hollow and haunted. And in that silence, the question echoed in his mind, louder than ever. Is this cruelty really for her, or for the ghost of the woman who left me? Emily endured all. The endless criticism, the impossible deadlines. The way Daniel looked at her, as if she was a mistake that somehow slipped into his perfect world. There were nights she cried quietly in her small apartment, wondering if she should quit. But every morning, she wiped her tears, stared at her reflection in the mirror, and whispered, "You're stronger than this. Prove him wrong." And she did. Her presentations began to shine. Her ideas got noticed in meetings. Senior managers praised her creativity. Slowly, she became someone the office couldn't ignore, no matter how much Daniel tried to. Months passed, and against all odds, Emily earned her place. She was no longer just an intern. She was staff. The company threw a grand party to celebrate. The ballroom sparkled with lights, champagne glasses clinked, and laughter filled the air. Music floated softly in the background as employees mingled, toasting to new beginnings. Daniel stood at the edge of the room, glass in hand, forcing polite smiles. He had learned how to mask his emotions over the years, but tonight something felt heavier. He couldn't stop his eyes from finding Emily across the room, her laughter bright, her confidence undeniable. And then he froze, because standing beside her was a woman he thought he'd never see again. Claire. His Claire. She looked older, yes, her hair shorter, streaked with hints of silver, but her eyes were the same. Eyes that once held him like gravity. Eyes that broke him when she disappeared. The glass in Daniel's hand trembled. His chest tightened so sharply he thought he couldn't breathe. Emily noticed his stare. She followed it, then smiled warmly. "Oh, Mr. Walker," she said, waving him over. "I want you to meet my mom." Claire turned at the sound of her daughter's voice. Her gaze landed on Daniel. The color drained from her face. "Daniel," she whispered, her voice breaking like glass. Daniel's mask shattered in an instant. His voice was hoarse, unsteady. "Claire." The air around them seemed to still. Laughter and music blurred into a distant hum. For the first time in decades, their eyes locked, not as strangers, but as people with unfinished stories, heavy regrets, and a secret neither of them dared to speak aloud. Emily, oblivious to the storm brewing, looked between them with a puzzled smile. "You two know each other." Daniel's throat tightened. Claire's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. And in that moment, the party around them faded into nothing. Claire's smile trembled. She reached for her wine glass, as if holding on to it could steady her. Daniel, however, took a step forward, his jaw tight, his eyes locked on hers. "You," Daniel said, his voice low, almost dangerous. "After all these years." Emily glanced between them, confused. "Wait, what's going on?" "Mom." Claire forced a smile at her daughter, though her fingers were white around the stem of her glass. "Sweetheart, could you give us just a moment?" Emily hesitated, her brow furrowing. "Is everything okay?" Daniel cut in sharply. "We need to talk. Alone." The tone made Emily's stomach twist. She opened her mouth to protest, but caught the look in her mother's eyes, a silent plea. With a reluctant nod, she stepped aside, drifting back toward her colleagues. But her heart pounded, unease crawling through her veins. As soon as Emily was out of earshot, Daniel leaned closer, his voice shaking with years of buried fury. "You left," he hissed. "No explanation. No goodbye. Do you have any idea what that did to me?" Claire's eyes glistened. "Daniel, please." "No." His voice rose, drawing a few curious glances from across the room. He lowered it quickly, though the fire didn't dim. "You destroyed me, Claire. I was ready to give up everything, college, my future, just to be with you. And you vanished. Like I meant nothing. Tears spilled down Claire's cheeks. She tried to reach for his arm, but he pulled back. You don't understand, she whispered. I had to leave. Had to. Daniel's laugh was bitter, cold. You chose to. Don't stand here and lie to me. Claire's chest rose and fell rapidly, her voice breaking. I didn't want to hold you back. You had your whole life ahead of you, Daniel. You were brilliant, accepted into the best schools. And me? I wasn't part of that world. Daniel's face twisted with pain. That wasn't your choice to make. Claire's lip quivered. For a moment, silence hung between them, heavy and suffocating. From across the room, Emily watched them, unease growing deeper. She'd never seen her mother so shaken, never seen her boss so raw. Claire's voice dropped, almost a whisper, trembling with truth she'd buried for decades. I did it for you. For us. You don't know the whole story. Daniel's brows furrowed, his heart hammering in his chest. For the first time, fear cut through his anger. What story? He demanded. Claire swallowed hard, her eyes darting toward Emily. But before she could speak, one of the senior managers clinked a glass and announced, Ladies and gentlemen, let's raise a toast to our incredible new staff. The crowd erupted in cheers, drowning the moment. Claire wiped her eyes quickly, trying to compose herself. Daniel stood frozen, his chest heaving, torn between the celebration around him and the storm raging inside. Emily, confused and anxious, caught sight of her mother's red eyes. She walked back toward them, placing a hand gently on Claire's arm. Mom, what's happening? Why are you crying? Claire forced a fragile smile, shaking her head. Nothing, sweetheart. Nothing at all. But Daniel's eyes, burning with both recognition and dread, never left Emily. The clinking of glasses faded as the toast ended, but the tension near the corner of the ballroom was impossible to ignore. Daniel's eyes bored into Claire, his voice rough, rising above the chatter around them. Don't you dare walk away again, he snapped, his words slicing through the air. Not this time. Conversations nearby went quiet. People turned, curiosity pulling their eyes toward the scene. Emily looked back and forth between them, panic growing in her chest. Mr. Walker, please, she tried to step in, but Daniel's voice thundered over hers. Why, Claire? Why did you leave me? The room stilled. The music faltered as the band hesitated, sensing the sudden shift. Dozens of eyes were now fixed on the CEO, a man no one had ever seen lose control. Claire's hands shook. She pressed them together tightly, her lips trembling. Daniel, please, this isn't the place. Then tell me here. Daniel's voice cracked, carrying years of rage and heartbreak. Tell me why you destroyed us. Tell me why you disappeared without a word. Emily's chest tightened, her voice breaking. Mom, what is he talking about? You knew each other. Claire's breath hitched. Tears spilled as she looked at her daughter, then back at the man she once loved. The walls she had built for 20 years collapsed in an instant. I left because I was pregnant, she cried. Gasps rippled through the room. Champagne glasses paused midair. The word pregnant echoed like thunder in the silence. Daniel's world tilted. His chest rose and fell in sharp bursts, his face pale as marble. What? His voice was a whisper now, ragged, barely holding together. Pregnant. Claire nodded, her whole body trembling. I was 18, Daniel. I couldn't let you throw away your future for me. For us. My parents forced us to leave the country, and I agreed because I thought it was the only way to save you. Every face in the room was locked on them now, co-workers frozen in disbelief. Emily's heart pounded so hard she thought she might collapse. She stepped back, shaking her head violently. No, that can't be. Her voice broke into a whisper. Mom. Daniel turned to her then, his eyes filled with shock, pain, and something Emily couldn't name. His lips parted, but no words came out. Claire, sobbing openly, reached for her daughter. Emily, sweetheart. I'm so sorry. I should have told you long ago. Emily staggered back another step, her world crumbling. Her boss. The man who tormented her for months. The man she hated. Her voice cracked, raw and trembling. You're saying he's my father? The room was silent. No one breathed. No one moved. And Daniel, once the most powerful man in that room, stood completely undone, staring at the daughter he never knew he had. The room seemed to shrink around them. The music, the laughter, the celebration, all of it vanished into a heavy silence. Daniel's lips trembled as he whispered, Emily, I But Emily raised a hand, her face pale, her voice shaking with fury and heartbreak. "Don't." Her eyes burned into him. "Don't you dare say my name like that. Months, Mr. Walker. Months you made my life miserable. You humiliated me, crushed me, made me feel like I was nothing." Her voice cracked, the tears finally falling. "And the whole time you were my father." Gasps rippled again. No one in the room moved. Daniel's knees felt weak. His throat locked. "I didn't know." His voice was raw, desperate. "Emily, if I had known." "But you didn't." Emily's cry silenced him. "You didn't see me. You didn't care. You hated me for something I couldn't control." She turned, her chest heaving. "And now? Now you want to stand here and what? Pretend this changes everything." Claire reached for her daughter, her voice breaking. "Emily, please." Emily jerked away. "You too, Mom. You both kept secrets. You both lied to me." Her vision blurred with tears, but she forced herself to stand tall. "Do you know what hurts the most? It's that I came here to prove myself, to show I was worth something. And instead, I find out I was nothing but a reminder of your past mistakes." Daniel's chest caved inward. His hands shook as he stepped forward, but his voice barely rose above a whisper. "You're not a mistake. You're the only thing that ever mattered." Emily looked at him, her heart aching at the broken man before her. For a moment, she saw the truth in his eyes. But the years of absence, the cruelty she endured, they were louder than his words. She shook her head. "I don't know if I can ever forgive you." The silence was unbearable. Everyone watched, but no one dared speak. Emily turned and walked out, the ballroom doors closing behind her with a heavy thud. Daniel stood frozen, his world shattered. Claire stood beside him, her tears falling freely. And in that crowded, glittering room, the two of them were left alone with their regrets. A man who lost his daughter before he ever knew her, and a woman who sacrificed love for a future that still broke them both. And somewhere in the night, Emily's footsteps echoed, carrying the weight of a truth that would change all their lives forever.